We'll do roll call.
Nicole Ethier here.
Brian Langevin, present.
Dan Kusher here.
Colleen Roy here.
So formal. Matt Often here.
And Sarah.
Yes, Sarah here.
All right. So first thing on the agenda, we have public comment. Have any members of the public present who would speak? We have
No hands on
no,
Zoom.
no hands on Zoom.
I'd like to say
the
that's
classic line.
It's a great addition. Good idea of putting that on the agenda for 2026 and going forward.
Yeah. All right, and so next is update on 1727 Upton Street. I don't know who's given the update, but
Kathleen and Fiona should be
Okay,
taking the
cool.
lead on that.
So, the update was just, I'm just trying to make sure that we're staying on top of deadlines that are coming up. So just kind of more or less just keeping our eye out on the grant agreement and making sure that we're doing what we need to do administratively to keep that current. I sent an email to Dan and Amber, just kind of outlining where we're at. Let me just pull that up. But I believe the agreement is valid until June, but we just want to make sure that we're not letting anything fall to the wayside, because that'll come quickly, and we just don't want to kind of get ahead of it. I know that Brendan Properties submitted a letter earlier in the year requesting an extension, and there was discussion about, and they also wanted to renegotiate some terms. We never heard back from them. I reached out to him to try and see if he could get on this agenda. He didn't get back to me, so I'm not sure if they're just waiting at this point to finalize the P&S and do one thing at a time. But that's my kind of general update, and I just want it to be on our radar as we proceed. That's all I have really.
okay. Kathleen, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that that I was not copied on anything from this party that's supposedly taking over this project. And I did talk to Fiona about the concern we have about the fact that the purchase and sale agreement is still out there. I did mention to the person who sent the request for funding that I wanted an update on the status of that P&S, and the status of a closing, and I haven't heard anything back.
So I can give an update on that if you guys are okay with just. I'll do my select board update now because
Yeah.
really that's about it. There are actually three documents that we have. There's been an update to the purchase and sales, and that points to an environmental holdback agreement. So basically, I'm pretty sure I could just talk about this because we're going to be voting on it.
They're
And
going to
it's-
be published
and it's going to be in a public, in a packet really soon. So I'm going to just do that. So their concern, and this came from Brendan, I think, was that there is some remediation that needs to do environmental remediation. And there was a little bit of discrepancy in terms of between the P&S and the original RFP. The main thing that the select board needed to sort of talk about was who was going to pay for that and how much and the indemnity and all of that kind of stuff. The agreement that we came to, I'll characterize it, it sort of roughly splits the financial responsibility for that remediation between the town and the developer. But what it does for us is it indemnifies us from any future liability for that. The select board viewed that as a very good investment So we updated the PNS for that. We also, I believe, set a date of April 1st for the actual date where the PNS will be executed. So that's good and coming up. And then we agreed on the terms of the land disposition agreement as well, which is the piece which actually conveys the actual property at the PNS. So as far as that piece of it, the PNS and the land transfer execution, and that is all buttoned up.
Great.
The select board's agreed on the terms. The developer has. We have voted on it in executive session, and the only thing that's really left is in our upcoming Tuesday meeting, we'll vote it in open session. So we're in good shape as far as that goes.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any questions or discussion on that before we?
Can we just, once it gets posted tomorrow, just send all of that over to Kathleen? And, yeah. Thank you. And then how do we ensure all future communications with Brendan Properties loops Kathleen in as well?
I mean, I can just make sure that I'm continuing to CC her and just try and keep the communication going. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the letter was sent a while ago, but I'm not sure who he actually directed it to. He never actually formally sent a copy to Kathleen, but he had her name on it, so I don't know what happened there. But yeah,
He was thinking about you.
not sure.
Well, there's so many Kathleen O'Donnells. Who knows? It could have gone anywhere.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just I wasn't sure like who specifically. I mean, I can probably go back and read out the email, but anyway, in any event, yes, I will be making sure to loop all the pertinent parties in and just keep the communication going forward. I'll follow up with him again as well and just say, put a bug in his ear about staying on top of this.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I think maybe just for clarification, Ms. O'Donnell mentioned a change in parties, right? And that was either new to me or I'm not exactly sure what we might be referring to there. I think Brendan and GSX have been kind of party the whole, and just by way of introduction, hi, I'm the new member. I don't think we've met before, but so yeah, just the change in parties. What were we referring to there?
Well, as I said, when I was speaking to Fiona the other day, she was mentioning that there was this sort of new local builder, whatever, that's been involved in this project, and that was sort of news to me, because I've just been dealing with Mr. Grant, and over these years, and so it was good news to me. From that Fiona shared that. I think that's a really great step forward. But I hadn't, I haven't seen their name anywhere, and they're probably members of the LLC that he's setting up. And so this probably doesn't change whoever is the party on the purchase and sale agreement, because he's probably, this new Brendan whatever has probably acquired an interest in the LLC that's going to be acquiring the property from the town. But, I don't know any, I'm just assuming that's the case. But I don't know that for sure.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. There's one hand on Zoom. Anybody else from the trust before we take public comment? All right. Let him in. It's a first name only, so go ahead and give us your name. And then go ahead. Bob.
Hello, folks. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. Yeah, that's the way I recall it. So I guess the only question, again, it's a question, right? I think it was you, Kathleen, had requested some documentation. This is like going way back, probably April of last year, to ensure that, I think the party you're talking about is John Grant, right? That he was paying vendors. And did that ever come in? Did you ever get that to your satisfaction?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And then, so I saw also on the agenda for this evening, there was another request for funds. And again, I know, I don't know if there was another or other meetings, but going back to that same meeting, there was some question on your part that, unless John Grant, GSX, met particular milestones, right, that there was some reluctance to pay or issue any more funds. Is that what's going to happen here?
Well, I've always been, obviously we want to make sure that, he's proceeding as he's supposed to proceed. And we also check those bills to make sure that we're paying for things that we are supposed to be paying for and not others. And so, but the information that we've received from Ty and Bond and the supporting request for these funds has been documented, and I don't have any issues with that.
So you will be paying for the request. I don't know, it's like 50 grand, I think, tonight.
Well, that's up to the trust, but I have approved that request. But it's up to the trust to decide whether or not they want to go ahead with it. But I've reviewed the invoices, yeah.
Okay. I think it's Brendan Holmes is actually the other party.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, and I guess one final question to Matt. Do you have any inkling or idea when those other, I know in the select board meeting, was it this Tuesday or the Tuesday before, whenever it was, that Evan or the board was going to push out and make those other documents public?
Yep. Yeah, we're going to vote on those on Tuesday. So you'll see those in the packet over the next day.
Okay, good, because it wasn't in the packet today, but I'll look for those. Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
they'll definitely be there.
And quickly, just to confirm for the minutes, this is Bob Carroll, correct?
It is.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
All right. And no other hands on Zoom. Anybody else before we? I mean, that's the next agenda item, so good segue, I guess. All right. So moving on, we have the bill schedule for the GSX grant agreement. Any discussion on this?
Nope. Kathleen, I think, covered it just now with her answer to Bob, so I feel comfortable.
Mr. Chair. It's probably a form over substance issue, but as Matt alluded to, the board approving all of the documents that'll be formally before an open session on Tuesday. I would personally feel more comfortable delaying the approval of this draw request until after the updated purchase and sale is formally approved in open session, signed, and kind of more of a done deal. I think, just by virtue of the fact that enough of the board wanted to delay, that vote. It doesn't seem like there should be a ton of doubt about the way that vote's going to go, but in an abundance of caution, I think this draw request just came in last week, and frankly, we would have ordinarily met last week, so it wouldn't have been outside the scope of reasonableness if we had missed that for last week's meeting anyway. So I don't think waiting until next month's meeting should be a huge issue for GSX, but like I said, I'm the new guy, so I'll defer to others.
For Kathleen, well, I guess first, so your concern is in case the catastrophic possibility happens that this whole deal falls through. Is that kind of what you're thinking, or? Yeah,
I mean, well, I think to some of Mr. Carroll's concerns, I think part of the hesitancy in the past has been the fact that we did keep kind of blowing past the PNS deadlines, and then we had the hold up for the environmental concerns. It would seem a shame to approve this now, and then if things did happen to go south, 3 or 4 days from now, to kind of I don't perceive a significant rush to approve this month, but some of the items included in this draw request are older. So I don't know what extent GSX might be urgently awaiting this payment, but
So could we contemplate just agreeing on the payment contingent on, the passage of the P&S and related documents?
So yeah, so my question for Kathleen would be, even if that were to happen, would we still, according to the grant agreement, we still owe this because it seems to me like this is still a an eligible request.
Yeah, yes, unfortunately it is under, but here's the situation is that I thought I understood from Fiona that or from the person who's providing the update, was that the PNS isn't going to be signed until April.
That's right. So what's happening on Tuesday is just the sort of town side of it is going to sign the amended purchase and sales, but the actual conveyance and the execution of the purchase and sales, won't be until April 1st.
I think that's the closing, right?
Yeah.
Is what we're expecting.
Yep.
No, well, that's two different things. The purchase and sale agreement is an agreement to to have this deal go forward. The actual closing itself is a deed from the town to the entity. So is the idea that you're going to amend the P&S to handle the environmental questions.
Yep.
And then the closing itself, like a deed from the town to GSX, happens on April 1st?
Happens on April 1st. That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's a different scenario. That's not the signing of the P&S. That's the actual delivery of the deed.
That's a true statement. Yeah.
Okay. So I would suggest that you could take a vote tonight to say that the authorization to go forward with paying this particular request would be contingent upon the execution of the environmental holdback agreement and the amendment to the purchase and sale agreement next week.
So moved.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second. And so Kathleen, that, so like if that doesn't happen, are we still on the hook for this payment?
We would, but then I think that's a discussion to then have, at your next meeting.
Okay.
Would be to say, okay, that didn't happen. What are we, what's our situation now? We've invested a fair amount of cash into this project. So that's a larger discussion that should be happening, at your next meeting.
Okay. All right. So
Hopefully won't be happening.
Would be my suggestion.
I guess hopefully we'll just we'll be happy to be moving forward.
Yes.
Process this Wednesday, the 21st.
Right. All right. So any further discussion? Hearing none, we will vote by roll call.
Nicole, aye.
Brian, I.
Dan, aye.
Colleen, aye.
Matt, aye?
Sarah.
Sarah, I.
All right. The draw request is approved. And next on the agenda is update on 25 Worcester Street.
Do we want to say?
I have
Yeah, do we need Kathleen to stay on or?
Yeah.
I
Kathleen,
don't
we don't want to take up too much more of your time. Since we're all set with 1727 Upton,
Would we
I
want to
don't
get any
know.
legal input on 25 or I guess is the question.
No,
I don't think so.
I was just going to sit on to hear what was going on.
Oh, I love that. Love it.
All right.
I
It is
don't
a
have
public
anything
meeting,
to
you're
say
welcome.
about it. I was just like, what's happening with 25 Worcester?
You usually have so many other meetings to get to,
Right,
though.
yeah.
So, but
All right, so yep, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Andy Howarth. I'm with Worcester Community Housing Resources, and the project leader on this and the director of development at my agency. We have had quite a year in the affordable housing industry, if you're not already familiar with that, but there have been a number of changes in funding sources. There have been some very strong winds blowing out of Washington, D.C. that are headwinds when it comes to developing new projects. And the biggest number of changes have been in the low-income housing tax credit, or LIHTC, funding world. That is one of the main sources of funding we've proposed for this project. And as of Labor Day-ish, I wouldn't have bet $1 that we'd be able to put together a LIHTC financing package for this project. That has been changing all fall, and for the good. The market really collapsed because there was some initial feeling in the new administration that they didn't like the program, but as a part of a compromise, they not only decided that they liked the program because investors make a lot of money on it, and in addition to that, the thing that has been the bottleneck or the roadblock for these projects for the last 5 years in many states is what's called the bond cap. And the bond cap says that you have to have a loan from an authorized state bond agency, which in Massachusetts is either Mass Development or Mass Housing, that covers 51% of the total development cost. If you get that, you are guaranteed. It's I hate to use the word entitlement, but technically it's what it is that if you meet this criteria, you will get a tax credit at 4% for X percent of the total project cost, and then you can sell that and leverage that, and that turns into a big piece of your financing. Well, as of this summer, Mass Housing and Mass Development were both 3 to 4 years out in that bond cap authorization. So that was the roadblock, that was the bottleneck where everything was getting stifled. As part of the compromise budget bill, the Reconciliation Act, which I won't give its political title, but the one thing in that bill that was actually beautiful is that they lowered the 50% requirement to 25%. And that basically opens the floodgates at Mass Housing and Mass Development so that they can fund twice as many projects as they have been funding the past few years. In the meantime, we would have been limited to whatever was unused in the typically more rural and more red states that don't use up all of their bond allocation, but Massachusetts is spent out 3 years in advance. So all of a sudden, the tap has been turned back on. Prices for the sale of tax credits to investors are rising again. We spent some time working on value engineering and saying, well, what if, to get the costs down. We still, as costs are still rising, we're still not completely happy with the budget that we're working with, but we think we can make things work. In terms of the legal process, we have not applied for the project eligibility letter because we have not had a full financing package and budget to show the design, but we have, after we were able to resolve the issues around using Bowler Engineering, which did work for the town. We have been negotiating with Bowler. I haven't made much progress, honestly, since Thanksgiving because somebody's been out of town every holiday week, but we are scheduled to meet with them on Monday, and we're getting close to an agreement for enough engineering work and enough preliminary site design so that we can get the project eligibility letter. Our attorney has been working on the zoning relief elements that are required, and hopefully we're going to put this all together in the next couple or 3 weeks and get it into the state. What you don't want to do in any of these projects is, and I'm sure you have probably seen this locally, and particularly if you're on other boards and commissions, that a developer comes in with Plan A and everything is fine and you really love it and they approve it as is, and then time passes and the costs aren't accurate, or the environmental says, wait a minute, you can only build on this end of the site, you can't do anything at all down there. And the state, and in particular DHCD, or HLC as it's now styled, hates you coming in and saying, oh, just a minute, wait a minute, here, we got a different one. So before we submitted for the PEL and before we submitted for zoning relief, we wanted to make sure we had a buildable project. Going in and then having to go back and say, well, that's not what we're doing, how about this, is not a way to slide through the bureaucracy. But that's where we are on that. We are working, we have obtained most of our pre-development funding committed. My agency has committed some unallocated funds toward it. We have obtained what's called an IFA, or Initial Feasibility Assessment Forgivable Loan. It's a grant, really, from one of the quasi-public funders that funds pre-development stuff, called CDAC, Community Economic Development Assistance Corporation. So we have funds from them. We have some of our own funds, and we have we've prepped CDAC for a further application if we determine that it is feasible, and it is. So, so that's going along, and that's pretty much where we stand. We've made some progress, but we don't have a final design. I think we're going to go very much like the original site layout. We have had some people at the funders suggest that, and I think this is something that local people also will like. People loved the old Grafton High School, and if we can, you can't rebuild Grafton High School, and you can't copy elements of the design, but when you have some very talented architects like we do on this team, you can sort of mirror or reflect or reference, is what they always say, stylistic elements of what used to be on the site. So we're going to try to incorporate that. For those of you too young to remember what Grafton High School looked like, I put a photo at the back of the plan set I gave you. So again, we're chugging along. It is a very difficult time to develop affordable housing. You may have seen in the papers that our agency is also doing a large permanent supportive housing project in Worcester for people that have been at risk of homelessness. We also recently leased out a portion of that project to the local emergency shelter provider for the depth of winter. The city used to have an emergency shelter at the old Registry of Motor Vehicles building, and they lost the ability to use that, so they were literally having people warehoused off the street on these very cold nights, and we did, and that unfortunately sucked up most of the holiday time for me. But we're moving ahead. We have a lot of irons in the fire. They're all good projects. We're still a very strong financial agency in today's climate, considering the number of developers that are involved in risky business. This is pretty solid stuff. We feel very comfortable we will get this funded. It is taking a little longer than I had hoped, but in today's environment and with the climate in Washington, I think we're doing okay. I think we're quite satisfied that we're making progress. I think the next thing I would report to you all is when we submit and when we receive the project eligibility letter, because that will start ticking a lot of other boxes. And at that point, we'll also be preparing filings for the local boards for the zoning approvals. If you know anybody that wants to make donations, we are a 501c3 charitable, so we're plugging along. Any questions about? I'm not going to get into whether we've increased the LIHTC portion and decreased the Housing Innovation Fund, or eliminated the home state funds. We've got 5-6 different funding pieces in this, and you juggle them all until you have something that balances. But based on today's estimates of construction prices, I feel very confident that we can pull enough stuff together. The market is extremely strong. We're doing another market study for seniors in this 62 plus age bracket, and 60% under income bracket, and it's a huge market. There are so many seniors that are priced out of market developments and are over income for developments that have built-in rental assistance. We will have some built-in rental assistance for some units in this project, but the state has strictly limited the number per project. So that's another one of the challenges we're dealing with. But I feel good about it. We just need time to keep plugging away at the. You know how you make a sculpture of an elephant, right? You start with a big rock and you chip away everything that doesn't look like an elephant, and that is kind of how we do these projects. So happy to answer any questions now or anytime.
I'm good.
Oh, go ahead, Fiona.
I just wanted to thank Andy and the team for all the work. I know how difficult it is to patch together financing for projects like this. And, we just appreciate the update and keeping us in the loop. And the legwork that goes on behind the scenes is very time consuming. It's very challenging. So, yeah, I think you said 5 or 6 different sources that are being weaved together to make this possible, that's impressive. So.
Well, thank you. Back in the old days when I first started in this business, when we had rotary dial telephones, you would apply to a government agency for a grant or a mortgage or a something that would fund a project. The assisted living facility we did in Gardner in 2011 had 12 funding sources. That's called the funding stack, and it is a stack. The homeless permanent housing that we're putting together in Worcester has 10. So this is a piece of cake. This is 5,
I do have a quick question looking at
Sure.
the handout you brought. First question is there a digital copy that we can
Yes.
put up on our website to have
Sure.
that? Well, you didn't, so I get the credit. And then
Fair enough.
at the bottom, the date says April 2023. Is that just a typo? Or?
No, that's the date that they first started working on this proposal.
Okay, so that's what that means.
Yeah.
All right.
We might have this already. Well,
I
I don't
think
know
you
about all the
do.
pages in here, but we do have something from April 4th, 2023 on the website.
But that might be a consistent date they keep referencing when they.
Yeah,
start.
these are not updated drawings. These are the
Okay.
as submitted drawings. Again, what you don't want to do, you talk about alternatives and you say, well, what if we shifted this here and change the room count or the unit, the bedroom count this way or that way, but you don't redraw every set of drawings and pay the architect to do so until you're pretty sure that you're at where you want to be. So that's the original submission. That's nothing new. And you do have, we did submit a digital version.
Cool.
But you said,
As we update, you'll get them.
sure, but you said essentially it seemed like it's shaping up to resemble what was originally submitted, and there'll be some design cues from the
Yep.
old high school, but basically kind of what we're looking at is similar.
We're still, yeah, I think the one thing that we've talked about changing is in this, there are 2 wings around a central core that are parallel to each other. And I think to work with the site more, depending on what Bowler has to say, we're probably talking about offsetting them a little bit more. So instead of one longer building with kind of a central courtyard, it'd be 2 offset around a central.
Okay. And
But again, I'm not gonna pay the architects to redraw it until we're pretty sure we've got
That makes sense.
a buildable.
but we wouldn't expect any changes in terms of AMI thresholds or unit counts.
Nope.
Okay.
The worst case, and I don't even want to say it, but I'm going to say it, is that sometimes you have to cut a unit or two due to the topography of the site. I don't see that happening. I think it's flat enough. There's enough flat area that we can get the full unit count. And of course, it's in the developer's interest on any rental product. You're paying per square foot to build something, and you don't get any rent for units that aren't there. So our intent is to maximize the number of units to the number in the original proposal. The hill that I often, I won't say die on, but take my last stand on is don't lose any units. So,
Got it. Good. Thank you.
all right.
Sarah had a hand up, but maybe her question got answered.
Yeah, it did kind of get answered, but you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and ask it anyway, even though I did take my hand down. I just want to make sure I'm understanding kind of the process because I remember when you came like last year and talked about all the prep work that needs to go before shovels go in the ground with traffic assessments, water assessments, things like that. I just want to understand. So it's with the funding sources, is what's like the priority right now to secure that before any of that work is kicked off? Because I know it's like a long list of that type of work.
It's a great question. The answer is that you have to do all of these background research items for different purposes. So, in other words, we need a HUD environmental clearance review before we can close on the purchase of the land. To do that, we need traffic studies, we need wetland studies, we need a wild animal survey to make sure there are no endangered species. We need approval from the Mass Historic Commission, which among other, but wait, it's new construction. You're not, tearing down a building. Yes, but there might be a Native American burial ground or a sacred object on the site, and they get to review all of that. So there's one whole environmental pathway. The other pathway is with the funders, and the pre-development funders that are giving us the money to pay for a lot of the architecture, the design, and the engineering. They want certain thresholds met. So they will require some of this stuff on their own. In addition, the way the state funding works, and this is again what I call the capital stack. They put out a request for proposals twice a year, sometimes 3, but generally twice a year. Sometimes it has a special round. The one round that we just went through was for permanent supportive housing. So housing with services for people who need services. You submit a pre-application, and you have to have a whole bunch of these due diligence items submitted with the pre-application, and then you sit back and you wait some more, and at some point you get an email that says you are invited to submit a full application, and at that point you take out the checkbook and you start writing checks pretty willy-nilly for all kinds of stuff that has to go into the final application. That, as I said, that happens twice a year. The schedule varies, but for example, we submitted a pre-application for this hotel project in September. Within a couple of weeks, we heard back, yes, you're invited to submit a full application. It's called a one-stop, and it's due December 5th. So we had like 2 months to put that all together. We submitted the one-stop application, and we will get our response back officially in March. So that's not uncommon. Again, this hotel project I was telling you about in Worcester is a two-phase project. So we heard on the first phase, we heard, okay, submit an application. We submitted the application. Now we're sitting around waiting and waiting and waiting nervously. But we took a cue from being invited to submit an application for part 2 that it looks pretty good that we're going to get funded. And that's the guessing game you have to play. And and a congressperson may make a call. There may be a lawsuit that involves the town or the community. There's any number of things that can go wrong. But if everything goes right, you'll get invited to submit they'll open up pre-applications. They don't invite you. You just submit it. 3 months later, you'll submit a full application, and somewhere between 3 and 6 months after that, they'll tell you got funded.
Is that the same process the last time you met said that usually you have to apply twice because
Yes.
you don't get it the first time?
Yes.
All right. And so, but we're already looking like we're ahead on that.
I think we're not behind. I don't know if I'll call that ahead, but we're not behind.
I like that. Okay.
I think that given I don't want to do too much inside baseball, but the big shortage right now for the state is rental assistance funds. They have limited it to 16 units of rental assistance per project. And that doesn't matter whether you're doing a 30-unit project or a 300-unit project. You get no more than 16 units of rental assistance. That may change in the future. We hope so. And part of it is that the families are being displaced and they're getting rental assistance, and landlords are getting rich, and all the tropes that you hear about the affordable housing crisis. So I think there will be more rental assistance funding in the future. But for right now, bigger projects that need a lot of rental assistance are getting delayed. This is not a bigger project, and 16 units of rental assistance out of 50-some units is not a huge ask. So we think that this competitively, this shortage of rental assistance actually improves the chances for this project. I may be oversimplifying a little bit, but
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you.
thank you for listening. I hope I didn't bore you.
I don't know.
And again, if anybody has any questions, Amber knows how to get a hold of me, and I try to be responsive to emails. And
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks for the update.
You can stay. Okay.
It's a public meeting.
I've got a 2.5-hour drive home.
Oh wow. Right. Should Zoom these things.
I haven't been here for a while, and I considered Zooming, and Amber kindly sent me the link, but I thought it would be good to see your faces in person since it's been a while.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate you coming in.
Not a problem.
We'll put you higher on the agenda next time.
Yeah.
All right. So next is treasurer's report.
Well, if anyone thought that was boring, you're about to go to sleep. So obviously sent out a decent amount of material, and I can share if there's anything that folks wanted to walk through. But I guess probably initially kind of open it up to conversation with the board. Obviously, I made a bunch of assumptions and kind of walked through the history. Colleen and I had talked about it a little bit at the prior meeting. Kind of what drove the need to really kind of segregate out CPA and non-CPA funds. I was able to find, digging through some accounting records from prior to the most recent accounting system change, where it looks like I think it was 2019, there was a pretty clear delineation split made in the GL records to split out CPA related funds and non-CPA related funds. Obviously, I believe that predates Mary. So I don't know if we have anyone that could, firmly state that that's a solid split or a solid starting point, but barring any evidence to the contrary, I felt comfortable running with it. And then from there, made a handful of other assumptions kind of bleeding through. The biggest one being with the legislation in 2016 largely aligning CPA eligible uses of funds with things that the trust should have been able to do anyway. So if we're really indifferent between the two, we do have the restriction that was built into the grant agreement signed last year with CPC to cap admin related expenses at 10% of the annual grant. It's like, well, if that's the one difference between the two buckets, we might as well assume that we're spending CPA funds first and then leaving any excess or any other funds in theoretically the slightly more flexible bucket. But whether it's that or anything else, happy to talk through any of those other assumptions or kind of where we're landing, rolled forward to present.
Do you want to share it and pull it up?
Yeah.
It's an impressive piece of work you put together.
See if I can make it a little bit bigger.
So, have you shared this with Mary at all yet?
I have not gone back to Mary. I figured with budget season obviously being what it is, so
She's not busy.
I figured she'd have a few things going on, and she had told me that they'd be closing December up until probably mid to late next week. So I figured I would ping her for. I believe the only piece we're missing as of December is the investment income or loss. So I figured I'd ping her next week for that update, and then kind of share what this is and if there's anything she wants to do with it, or if she has any other thoughts.
I know I had a lot of fun going through with this and color coding it, so because it helped me read it a little easier. But yeah, I really didn't think this was going to be something that it's beyond my skill set to be able to do. So I was real excited when I saw this, real excited.
You would be.
Yeah, but honestly, it's something we needed, and to be able to take his skills and put this together for us was, thank you.
A couple of things. So I mentioned that cap on admin related expenses. So to use last year as an example, kind of as we run through the year, so in FY25, we maxed out on that 10% admin charge in February. When you see these lines, it's basically saying, it's like, well, the line above it is where we kind of exceeded that 10%. And so this is basically just sliding over whatever we exceeded that 10% by out of the CPA bucket and into the non-CPA bucket. And then for the rest of that fiscal year, you'll see this note in that column that, yes, we've met the cap. And so any admin related expenses for the rest of the year are going to go straight into the non-CPA bucket. And then in terms of the allocation of investment income or loss, really all that's doing is prorating it based on the immediately prior balances. So in this example from February 2025, there was a total $20,597 worth of gains. The CPA bucket was 183 grand. The non-CPA bucket was 1.35 million. And so it prorates that 20,500 between those two based on that proration. If we did get to a point where Mary was comfortable, splitting this out, it might be easier to have kind of a more concrete split for those gains and losses between those two buckets so that it wouldn't fall on us doing an allocation. But I don't know if she has an appetite for splitting out into two different accounts.
All right.
And that was another piece that the grant agreement with CPC specifically called out, that interest earned on CPA funds should be retained on that side of the house, if you will, or in that account. Before I noticed that, I was giving credit for all of that to the non-CPA side of the house, and it's like, well, I guess I can't do that.
So, going back to the idea of splitting out into the CPA funds and non-CPA into two separate accounts.
Yeah.
That would make things like a lot more straightforward to track going forward, right?
It would. I mean, we'd have to be more clear when we go to pay an invoice. Right. Which bucket we think it should come out of, or You know, we could probably track with Mary that admin number. So as we're going through the year, because she doesn't come to us for approval for payroll and things like that we get allocated. She just processes it. So, you know, if we could either, you know, let her know that this cap exists if she wants to track it on her own, or, you know, I'd be happy to, you know, in a given month when she sends over the detail of all of the cash activity, if it happened, you know, so we're at 9.5% as of the end of December. If we exceed that 10% in the month of January, when she sends over the reports through January, I can say, hey, you know, so we're over by $500. Can you move 500 from the CPA bucket, or take that out of the non-CPA bucket and replenish the CPA side of the house? So yeah, I'm indifferent. I think both the legislation and the grant agreement with CPC seems to strongly suggest that these should be separate accounts. But whether it's tracked manually or physically tracked in separate accounts, I don't know that there's a huge preference. I think either way would be better than the commingled bucket that we've had to this point. So
Yeah.
I will add that when I've talked with Mary about this, the software that she runs, it doesn't make it as easy as it seems to say, like just two buckets.
Yeah.
So that's where she, you know, hits a speed bump, because the software is limiting her. So we might have to make it where she just sends a report and Brian updates this, but we still have it, right? Now
Yeah.
we can track it that way. My other question is, what do we do with this right now? Because one, it's for public consumption at this point.
Yeah.
But, you know, put it up, post it, but call it a draft or call it something. I don't really know. Version 1.0 and keep doing different versions, but you know, I know at least one person in Grafton is going to really want to look at this. It's not me. I've already seen it. I know one other person does. But you know, other people will want to take a look at this. So how do we put a little asterisk on it? Like, how do you guys envision releasing this?
I think what we can do, if the trust is good with kind of the assumptions and the way this looks now, we could even just print, and I formatted the file to print to PDF pretty cleanly. We could play with the parameters to say print fiscal years at a time. So I think this starts with FY20, I think it is. So, you know, print off the FY20 activity, print off FY21. Those can be their own separate files. And then as we're mid-year, you know, there's always going to be about a month lag based on when they're closing. You know, I or whoever the treasurers can report on kind of the current month, and then we can have a current year file that it'd probably be too cumbersome to just have monthly, but maybe each time there's an update, we can publish a new year-to-date version, take down the old one, replace it with the new one. That might be the best. And then by the end of the year, you're back at one full file for that year. And
Yeah.
Start the next year.
Yeah.
I think for public record purposes, each of those files will need to continue to be, you know, exist and be available through
Yeah.
the town clerk, but not necessarily needs to be on the website. Having the up-to-date one on the website, I think, makes the most sense for residents who are looking for information.
So I really, when I got on CPC, we get treasurer's report every meeting, right? And we ended up going and putting all the treasurer's reports. Amber did this a lot of first, but it's super helpful.
Okay.
And it is nice to go back to be like, how did we do that year, and to be able to. So I think having them all on the website just shows that we are doing it and we've been doing it,
All right.
or that
Yeah.
we can show that we can do it. You know.
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents.
Sounds good to me.
Is that something you could make happen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You do have a hand on.
Sarah?
Yeah, not a question, just a comment. Yeah, Brian, really appreciate your hard work on this, especially given that change that we have to comply with this. I am not a financial person at all, so this kind of makes my brain go, ooh, but it's very exciting to look at this so neatly organized It's going to be very helpful for me personally as a member of this committee. I find this to be very helpful and kind of empowering. I think just to have this level of transparency and clarity. And then also, yeah, I think that'll be so nice and neat to have 2020, 2021, 22. That way, if there's any questions from the community, we can just direct them there. This gets me really excited, and I can tell how much work this went into this and your expertise. Um, yeah, glad you're on our team, that we have this expertise working for us. So thank you.
This is what I do for fun. So
My kind of fun.
the only other item that I wanted to kind of just touch on related to this is I was kind of surprised as I was going through the months when we had negative investment, quote unquote, income loss, because silly me, I was just assuming that, especially with municipal funds, I just assumed everything would be fairly conservative, socked away in a minimally interest bearing account that's not really doing much of anything. These funds, so Mary kind of walked me through, these funds are kind of invested with a host, all of the town's funds. Everything's on the up and up. It's all compliant with mass law. There's a fiduciary that's kind of responsible for managing the investments. The only real question I had is, I guess, specific to the funds we've committed to GSX. And I think after tonight's approval, there's about $670,000 left under that grant agreement. Obviously, by and large, the investments have been wildly successful. Even through the droves of 2020 when the market was going all over the place, we actually didn't have any losses then. It was really just been a few months over the past year or so that have been negative. I didn't know, and Mary said she thought that it would be possible if we wanted to sock away funds that have been committed to some purpose into something that was lower risk or no risk, so that we know that there's no possibility of kind of us, losing anything or not, those funds not being available. When we look at 1.6 million total available, I don't get concerned that we're going to lose $1 million of that, but just wanted to throw it out to the trust. One, to make sure or see if anybody else wasn't aware of how those funds were being invested, and that there was some risk associated with them. But two, at least throw it out there to see if we wanted to have Mary investigate doing something else, at least with that committed pot.
I think hearing other options of what like you said, the breakdown of what we have now and then what we could also do, I don't think that hurts to investigate and look into.
Sure.
So we have, if I'm reading this right, we have almost $1 million beyond what's committed to GSX, right?
Yeah.
So we would have to, of the 1.6 million we currently have, we'd have to lose like
Over
60,
900,000. Yeah.
Yeah, like 60% or so.
Yeah.
So like that would be like a catastrophic event in our economy.
Yeah.
If these are not, these are normal risk investments that we have. So if that happened to us, it happened to everybody.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, not saying that's impossible to happen, but I don't think we would be, in a situation where GSX is moving forward with this project in the middle of a catastrophic economic meltdown. So yeah, I guess I'm not too worried, but yeah, hearing more details would be good.
Do you know what firm the town uses?
I do. I think I might have included it in my email.
Oh, okay. Doesn't matter.
Brian, when we have lost, what kind of range are we talking about?
So like I said, they really only popped up over the last year or so.
Yeah.
And still, for FY25, we were in the green by 90 grand. But there was a month when we lost 26, a month when we lost 16, or 2 months we lost 16. But there have been months when we've gained 40 and 50 grand. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, like I said, these investments have been wildly successful. regardless of kind of some of these blips in FY25.
I think to me, as I mean, amateur investor doing my own retirement savings, just the way I look at this, the year, we had those 4 months of losses, but that year
Yeah.
was still, I mean, it wasn't even of the 3 I can see on the screen at the moment. It wasn't even, it was like twice as good
Yeah.
as the net, the lower one. So yeah, I feel like that's just, ups and downs.
Yeah.
But to be totally responsible, hearing our options and making sure we can say, yeah, no,
Yeah.
we know.
Sure. Yeah. So when I reach out to Mary next week, I can ask her for more information.
Thank you. You're the greatest treasurer.
You're the second best.
Not even close. Not even close.
All right. So, anything else on treasurer's report?
No, I think that's it.
The select board report. We got a little bit of that. Anything?
Yeah, I mean,
Additional?
that's most of it. There is, I'm sure everybody's aware, a sort of brewing purchase of a piece of land next to North Street Elementary School. I think that's not going to come out of CPA money, and obviously I don't think it's something that the town would think about using for affordable housing necessarily, because it's
Right.
literally attached to the school. So
Yeah, I think the purpose of exploring it is to save it for the schools. So
for whatever they need.
Yeah.
So, but I just wanted to mention that.
feels pretty obvious that's like the highest and best use of empty land next to the school is school expansion and use. So
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's it.
Matt, did you attend that MHP webinar last month too?
I did.
Okay. In the packet under select board reports, I put a link to MHP uploaded like the recording and the slides, but I attended that as well, and I thought it was pretty informative about the ADU stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, they had a 3-part sort of, there was some ADU stuff in there, and it's developing pretty quickly. You're starting to see developers actually have prepackaged ADUs to pre-engineered and all that kind of site, so that was really good. So, yeah. Hopefully we'll see some of that in Grafton for sure.
Are there any ADU assistant programs out there?
There's a couple of firms that are sort of providing some assistance, and MHP, I think they're always available for that sort of.
Is that something we would be interested in doing for our Grafton residents to, do like a micro grant to help them get an ADU?
I'm not sure how that would work, but maybe. I don't know. Maybe Fiona has she was actually there as well.
So I wasn't able to attend, so I had Amber attend for me. So I'm sorry, I cannot speak intelligently to what was said, but always willing and able to help folks get grants and explore opportunities. We obviously have a very, very good working relationship with MHP, and they're constantly pushing out opportunities like that. So Matt or Amber, was there specific programs in place, or are we just kind of thinking?
Some of them aren't rolled out yet. The ones that they were talking about, but yeah, I don't know if it makes more sense for the trust to just make sure that Grafton residents know those resources exist, rather than offer support ourselves through some some kind of grant. But yeah, no, it seems like they're getting kind of. It was stuff that I hadn't thought about. Like they are helping people learn how to become landlords. Like if you've never had a tenant before and you're building an ADU, that's not something that you're familiar with. So that it was interesting how many different things they were offering surrounding this.
Yeah, to your point, Amber, usually I'm envisioning like a program like that would be a partnership between like a state organization that's funding the initiative and then the private like homeowner. But yeah, I'm more than happy to help push out resources and just kind of continue to keep my eye on how we can help as a department and as a trust, to kind of
I can
incentivize
update the
more
trust
ADUs.
to make sure that those resources are easy to find.
Thank you.
I just got the AG's letter back about the zoning updates, the ADU zoning, protected use ADU zoning updates, and we had no issues. So that was today.
Nice.
Cool.
Great news.
So that's the first step. That's in place, and yeah, we're excited about that. So I would have been shocked if we got any pushback because we relied heavily on the language in the law, but yeah.
Residents interested in pursuing ADUs, are they largely coming to your office? Are they going straight to building or a little bit of both?
Site plan approval through the planning board for qualifying. Yep. That's usually a relatively quick process, and if the planning board has site plan approval authority, the building inspector typically the building inspector will spend minimal time on doing any sort of additional review because that base is already covered. So Grafton is very good and the planning board is very good about moving those types of applications and along quickly.
Anything else? No. Select board report? Or?
No.
All right. Can transition to town planner report.
Yeah, so we got our letter, as I mentioned. That's great. We'll do the follow-up work that's required to get the zoning bylaw updated and published with all our new protected use ADU language. I believe I mentioned this at the last meeting, but if I didn't, I apologize. We did get an award for $100,000 for a feasibility study for Fisherville Mill. That is to basically, it's very similar to what we're doing at the High Point lots, except to a much larger scale and a heightened degree of complexity because that site is complicated to say the least. So, Fisherville Mill's been a priority in previous reports, comp plans, current and past. Housing production plan talks about the development being realized at this site pretty extensively, amongst other things. So, obviously South Grafton and that corridor key. So we went in on a grant application with Fisherville Redevelopment Corps, got the award, and now I have finalized the RFP for a qualified engineering firm to respond to hopefully respond to, and then a review committee will eventually choose the successful respondent. So yeah, just the RFP has, I don't know when it's going to be published. It's kind of it's a crazy time right now in the TA's office, so I don't want to put William under any pressure, but I did get that over to him recently, and hopefully we'll see that out on the street and just start kind of starting that in earnest because we are on the grant is 2 years, but 2 years flies by quickly. So, Sarah, did you have a question about the study?
Yeah, just that's great that you got that grant, and just curious, kind of what's the long-term vision for that site?
So the zoning, so it's smart growth 40R zoning, which it's an overlay district. It was adopted in 2006. I think that there's a degrees of flexibility. Mixed use was the preference at the time, and that's still very much, I think, on the radar. But as we've seen through market conditions and projects in town that have tried to take off of mixed use, it hasn't really been working too much. So the most likely scenario would be multifamily with affordability component, of course, could be age restricted. There's a lot of possibilities, no definites at this time, but the zoning does allow for a high degree of density, and the most likely scenarios would be, multifamily, rental, 200 plus units, perhaps a mixed use component if the numbers were to work, but probably not.
Well,
Yeah, yeah. So for a lot of a lot of kind of complicated market related reasons, including things like absorption rates and return on investment and lots of that stuff. I think the project would need to be rental to make the finances work. The study will tell us, but that's kind of the most likely scenario. So that's that. And then not too much else on the housing front. Obviously, MHP is working on the High Point lots with Bowler, and I honestly haven't had an opportunity to engage with them again since the last time, but I know that they are working in the background. They're very good, and we're going to try and get them at the next meeting instead. Kathleen is working. She's going to produce some documentation for me to submit to MHP, some of the legal stuff and title information. So I spoke with Kathleen last week about that. And there is, I had something else to report, and it is out of my head. But one thing that I should mention is when I did speak with Kathleen, and I'm sure she'll talk to the trust more about this, but I think that she's starting to wind down her practice and is considering retiring in the near future. So something to be on the trust radar is that, and kind of thinking about her replacement and how we're going to do that. So I'll connect with Evan and talk through kind of what that looks like. I don't, no panic, don't panic, because it's not like immediate, but she did mention that she's kind of winding down and scaling back a bit, and said that we should start considering other options. So
did she, in like the context of her conversation, did it seem like she was thinking like, if we'd like to move on when we're ready, like that's kind of part of her winding down, or like she'll let us know when she's going to stop and we should look for somebody at that point?
she said to me to start considering other options because she is winding down.
Okay.
She will be around for the next few months, but I think once we start getting in closer to June and July, I think she's really gonna
Okay.
be
Got it.
be stopping. So she works for a bunch of other communities, and she's doing the same thing with them, and some of them she's actually ended her contract with. So it's just something to be aware of. So I'll make sure to follow up with Evan and get her replacement when the time's right.
Is there any kind of process we're legally required to follow for that kind of thing, like a RFP type of situation, or can we?
Probably.
Okay, so
Probably, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, that's what we'll talk to Evan
Specifically?
about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's the 30B, how 30B dictates it, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's more than likely going to have to be some sort of request for proposals or services.
go ahead, Sarah.
yeah, just thinking that timeline, if it's already this year, I think it would be worthwhile if it's just in the next few months. We'd want some overlap just so that there is a clean transition from Kathleen to the next person. So obviously, I mean, Evan will probably know how to handle that, but I just think this is something that we do have to urgently act on if it is kind of a June, July timeframe.
So you're saying we should panic?
I hearing June, July, and then hiring a good lawyer, that takes time. So, um,
Yeah. I don't think she'll, I mean, she was very clear that she wasn't going to leave us high and dry, especially in the middle of some of these higher, you know, larger scale kind of things that we have going on. We will need her time and attention. Like she did make it clear, like she'll work with us to close that out. She did give that kind of general time frame, but yeah, yeah, and she only just told me, and I thought she was going to say it tonight. And then she didn't. So I said, I'm just
Maybe
going to tell
she
them
changed her
because she's going to
mind.
tell them eventually anyway. So,
We can all relax.
She did stay in our meeting too, so maybe
yes, I thought she was
Maybe she'll
gonna
do a pro bono. Who knows?
yeah, so I just want to be like as open and transparent about what's going on as possible, and that we will make sure that the transition is smooth, and she still will be supporting us for especially for 17 and 27. That she is very well aware that she needs to be engaged with us until that closes out.
Yeah, that having a new person come on, would be inconvenient before that is wrapped up. So that's good if we can keep her through the end of that.
Yeah, I was gonna highlight the same thing with the current grant agreement expiring in June.
Right.
I would certainly, want her to be the one that kind of leads the charge for whatever that, extension or reworking looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else on town planner report?
No, yeah, no kind of housing related projects coming to the planning board at this time, and yeah, always got stuff going on, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think that's all I got for now.
Cool. And next on the agenda is the 2025 annual report. Thank you, Amber, for preparing the annual report for us. Any questions or changes to suggest from anybody?
I just have one question. In the FY25 expenses in excess of 2,500, does that mean we paid Kathleen less than 2,500 this year?
We did.
Oh, that's why she's leaving.
I don't think we've since I've been here. I don't think we've ever paid her more than 2,500. She doesn't charge us much for stuff.
She's so good. Okay, I just wanted to. Perfect. Well, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
So, do we need a motion for this?
Brian had to have found a typo.
No typos.
Langevin.
No, just two questions. One on the area where we're talking about High Point. I didn't know if it was worth mentioning that we got those lots and, for what it's worth, $110,000 as part of a settlement during FY25.
That's what was written in the one from last year.
Oh, so last year's mentioned it?
Yeah. So when I was updating the report, I switched it with the stuff about the Hopple process because I thought
Got
that
it.
was more current.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to add it back in. I probably should have put the 2024 one in there so you could compare them.
But I like where your head's at. So people do look back. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, they just cut and paste. They're actively going through this, which is nice.
Yeah. And the only other thing that would be a change from the past, but I don't know if there's any interest. Should we call out what we're receiving each year from CPC as a source of income, or
Yeah,
just a thought?
that'll be good. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's included in CPC's annual report, but yeah, having it here
That's
too would
fair.
be
Yeah.
good. I mean, it's also just good to acknowledge that
Yeah.
that's part of this.
Give them a shout out.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll start now and then we'll do away with CPA.
be unfortunate.
That's all I had.
When we go to format the report, it is kind of nice having that just on one page. So I might cut the section on staff support because that's in there every year, and I don't know that it's the most important part of that of the report. So if I need the space, I might cut that and then put in, how much.
Do we need to write that we met 11 times?
Probably not.
I would.
Get rid of that.
Some up there could be
Love it.
trimmed, I think. I
That
can't
feels
make
like
my
one of
last name
those,
any shorter. So.
One of those, we always say this, so we're gonna say it again kind of thing.
Yes.
I trust your discretion.
All right.
Yeah.
I do like the one pager too. To just have it go over to be like NCPC. Like,
Yeah.
okay. I move to accept the 2025 annual report as presented with the updates that Amber's going to make.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Vote by roll call.
Nicole, I.
Brian, I.
Dan, aye.
Colleen, I.
Matt, aye.
Sarah?
Sarah, I.
All right, motion carries. Actually, if we were to just add in the CPC stuff, the part that would roll over to the next page would be respectfully submitted. Just on its own
Yeah.
page at the top.
I think you should get rid of that.
All right, so, and lastly is adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Vote by roll call.
Nicole, I.
Brian, I.
Dan, aye.
Colleen, I.
Matt, aye.
Sarah?
Sarah, I.
And we are adjourned.
Thanks, Fiona. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.